What up? It's your boy, Black Zach of the Exactly My Point podcast. Chilling with Shawn Majors, man. We full effect tonight, man. Got a special one for you. Man, a special episode. Yo, we got the moms in the building tonight. So we got the moms in here dropping some jewels. Hey, black men, we can't love black women until we learn to love our mothers. So we brought the moms in for this episode, and boy, you do not want to miss this one.
I think we're gonna get in trouble, you think?
We just might, but I told you we cooking this thing up slowly but surely. This for the one, not for the two.
This what? Episode
3.
Let's get in here, bro.
Yo, what is up? It is your boy Black Zach of the Exactly My Point podcast, and today we have a very, very special episode. But before we get into that, you know I have to introduce my co-host, my Brody, the Cuddy, a great teammate, a great man, a great father, none other than Shawn Majors.
What's going on, brother? Excited to be here today, man. Got a solid episode. Things been going extremely well. Got a cast today that is going to be huge for us, man. And I'm excited to see where this is going and just having as much fun. So, again, appreciate you having me on.
Man, I'm kind of nervous myself. As y'all have known, Zach has had some antics, and you know his mother has had to come up to the high school. So you know you guys have seen her in that light, but this is a different light now. You know, so we are here to first off, I want to say thank you to everybody who's been tuning in and supporting us. It really means a lot to us. But this episode right here is the first of many with this episode. This episode is called I Didn't Learn to Love a Black Woman Until I Learned to Love My Mother. So we feel as though the relationship between a mother and son is probably the most important relationship a man would have. So in order for us to educate ourselves and the rest of our peers on that, we had to invite our mothers up here. So I'll start first. You guys have already met her on many occasions. Some were professional, some weren't, but that's neither here or there. I would like to introduce to you guys my mother, Alice Williams.
That's it.
You gonna speak? You gonna say hi?
Hello. In rare form.
Ready to go. So I have sitting to the right of me, my lovely mother. I definitely don't know where I would be without her, molding me and shaping me to the man I am today. So I'm just excited for this show. Author, hard worker, independent as far as driven and drive. I think I get everything from a business aspect directly from my mother. So introducing author, Shawn Lane.
Hello.
Shawn Lane.
All right, so before we get started, you know, we like to do current events. Having black women up here, you know, one thing we wanted to talk about, you know, the presidency has come and gone. We do have a president, but we also have a black woman as our vice president. So if you young ladies would kindly just kind of speak to that and how you feel, what were your feelings when you see that, if you had any emotions, and how important is it to see a woman of color in an authoritative position? So Ms. Lang, we'll start with you first.
I think it is completely awesome. I personally just, when it comes to politics, I really have never really delved into politics. Just as a person of faith, I feel like things kind of shake out the way they do. State and local politics, absolutely, because I feel like our votes definitely count. But when it comes to federal and national and the United States of America having a female as a vice president, being Kamala Harris, African American, Indian, woman of color, I don't even have the words. I cried, I was excited, I think she's articulate, she's smart. I'm just excited. I think that every brown girl, every girl, doesn't matter what color she is, can see that they can do anything when they look up and see that. So I was excited.
Mom, what about you? How'd you feel?
Well, I thought it was just awesome, marvelous to have our first black assistant as the second ranking person in the United States. I too cried. I saw my daughter, I saw my granddaughter, and children to come. And then I thought about Shirley Chisholm. She She was the first black woman to announce her candidacy for president, but God didn't take her all the way to the door, but he took this one through the door. But Shirley left one thing for us to remember. If it's not a seat at the table, bring your own. And so with that, I know Kamala will shine. She will make room not only for herself, but for others to come. So I am proud as a black woman to have a sister as the second highest ranking person of these United States. And what influence on our children that you can do anything that you strive to set your mind to.
Okay, amen to that. Did y'all watch the Gucci verse? Right. Did y'all watch the Gucci and Young Jeezy verses last night?
I did not.
Oh, y'all did?
Where would I
That's for our generation. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
All right, so
Just know we won.
Okay.
that's debatable, but we're not gonna get into all that. All right, we know why we're here. So again, this topic is to focus on. I didn't learn to love black women until I learned to love my mother. So I just think that, you know, as we get started into this, that it is imperative that young men really understand the importance of the relationship that they have with their mother. I know my mother and our relationship has been a journey. I am finally learning to embrace that journey, and I am more than blessed to have a woman, a virtuous woman like my mother on my side. A lot of times I spent feeling like my mother was, you know, the opponent. When coming to find out, my mother was actually my teammate, my biggest teammate. And sometimes, you know, that is a hard pill to swallow because mothers don't have a filter. You know, they tell it straight like it is. And,
Absolutely.
and sometimes, you know, you have to step outside of your feelings and just take the constructive criticism because it comes from a place of love. And so that's kind of what I wanted to focus on today. And so the first question I have for the mothers on this panel: how did your relationship with your father influence your relationship with your son? So again, I'll start on this side first.
So the relationship with my father, as far as the impact on my relationship with my son, to be completely honest, it really was a relationship with my mother. Because my father, the way he raised me, it was to be hardworking, it was to be independent, it was to be ambitious and all those things, because he could see the trend where women needed to be all of that because they could possibly be a single parent. And wow, you know. But my mother, I had a younger brother, and they were very close. I was really close to my father, and she was close to my brother, so I watched that dynamic more so. And that was really what influenced me as far as raising my son. I saw their closeness, but I also saw some things that how I wanted to raise him and how I did not want to raise him. And what I would say to that is I wanted to raise a son that would also be all those things that my father put in me: independent, motivated, ambitious. I wanted my son to be able to provide for his family. And what I was seeing, the dynamic with young women having children, was they were so close to their moms that they were being, I don't want to say effeminate, but a lot of times they were so dependent on their moms that they were being called mama's boys when you guys were coming up. And I didn't want that for him. So being a single mom, having my son at 21, there were times I had to pull back on some of the emotions and the nurturing and the love that I wanted to give him. Can I give an example?
Please do.
Okay.
Please do.
He was across the way playing with his cousins, his older cousin, Sam, Lonnie, and
Oh,
Sam,
that's Lonnie's real name?
Oh, man.
No, that's
It's not
not
LP? Hey, bro, I got you.
Love you, LP. But Lonnie was like his big cousin, and all boy cousins around. But Lonnie had picked Shawn up and was swinging him by his feet or whatever, and his face had scraped the grass, and it was pretty hard too. teeth were green, all that. And you know, he couldn't have been more than like 5. And you know, Lonnie put him down, he was crying, and he, you know, he came home, running to me, and he was crying. And in that moment, I wanted to pick him up because I was crying inside too. But I knew, like, I said, for Shawn, I said, are you injured or are you hurt? Do you have any broken bones? Are you bleeding? You know, no. I said, okay, dust yourself off and get on back out there and play.
There we go.
Football games. Are you injured or are you hurt? You know, so I had to be a little bit tougher on him because I just didn't want him. I wanted to raise a young man that could provide for his family and be strong and be courageous. So it was really the relationship I had with my mother that influenced how I raised him.
Okay, you have to repeat the question.
So, how did your relationship with your father influence your relationship with your son?
Yeah. Well, actually, I didn't have a father in the home per se, but I had uncles and my grandfather stepped up to the plate to guide me and get that male figure of what a man should be like in my life. But I had strong women that didn't play, and they said don't or do, and that's the way it was. They were cut and dry. But raising a young man in today's society, I knew he had to be educated. So that was one of the things that I really pushed was education. Not that he accepted it, but as he started to become of his own, he found out that the tools that I had given him, he really needed them, because a lot of teachers didn't take him seriously until they found out how smart he was. And he can come off like he doesn't know anything, and that got him in a lot of trouble. But once he started to show people that he belonged in the gifted and talented programs and the head of his class, he started to appreciate who I was and what had happened at an early age. He was reading at 3, and he didn't always get, and I don't want to ever put teachers down, but sometimes bad behavior will cause people to put you in a different category and not really find out who the child really is. And I'm an educator too, so I don't want to ever paint a picture that educators are anything less, but Zachary had to come into his own, and they had to see his worth and know that he had something deeper inside of him instead of just mischief.
Dang, boy. Don't do that. Flame. Don't do that. Hey, mischief. It's no secret. Y'all don't act like y'all just not finding this out. It's no secret. If you know me, you've known the stories, or you've been around for the consequences. So let's not do that, all right? Let's not act like this is new, okay?
Well, Zach, I will agree with your mom as far as the education and the question as far as my dad. The educational part was also, we did get, and I don't want to, forget that part, but that, I took that for granted, but it definitely was infused in us too, as far as education. He wanted to make sure that everybody did better than the next generation,
Absolutely.
the next generation. So if he got his bachelor's, I was expected to get a bachelor's and a master's, and somebody else was expected to get a doctorate. So we working on the youngest one now, trying to,
It's gonna be
but
bright,
everybody,
right?
So education is definitely,
Yes.
I can speak to that, like having a mother as an educator. It was pros and cons with that. I could tell, Mom, this teacher, I don't think she's for me. My mom could go up there and be like, you right, baby, she may not be the one. But then there were times where, Mom, this teacher is doing this, and Mom still had the teacher hat on. She's like, no, I know you, son. You was in there doing it. So, it was good and bad, but I really honed into the education. I think it was like my senior year of high school. And we kind of had a family bet that I couldn't make the honor roll. And I was like, bro, I'm smart. I just feel like homework doesn't mean I'm smart. It just means I have discipline.
Wow.
So I don't really feel the need for
You want to
homework.
hear the story about the homework?
So
I used to walk in the neighborhood. All the children knew him. I mean, he was in high school. All the 5 and 6-year-old children knew him. And they would say, here's Zachary's homework. He would throw his homework out the window or leave it in people's yards. So the kids would see his name on the work and say, here's Zachary's homework. And I had asked him, I said, do you have any homework? No. Then when I walk up, I say, 2 blocks over, they found your homework.
okay, first off, we're at school all day. From 7 to like 4, 5, 6 o'clock. I got other things to do when I get home.
Oh my God.
They're very important too. You got
Very important. My social development is just as important as my academic. But you guys were right. So, Krishan, what was the second question?
Man, we're gonna skip past all of that. So we're gonna jump to Ms. Williams on this question first. So, what was your biggest fear knowing that you were birthing a son into this world?
I wanted to raise a God-fearing child, first of all. And I think he got that, but it just kind of went out the window when he got to school and around other people. So he always went to church. He was very active in church, but sometimes he just didn't show it.
It was in you.
It's
We just had to get it all out the way. So, you gotta get it all
But
out your system.
I remember the disciples, they weren't perfect people, and Jesus called them, so I know one day. But back to the question, my main focus was to educate him. I didn't want him to be a victim of circumstances. I didn't want him to be that young man in class that couldn't read when the teacher asked him to read a page. I wanted him to be the kid raising his hand, I can read this, and of course he didn't. And but at church, I have to give perks to the people at the church he was raised in. They really wrapped their arms around him, especially the men, and helped guide him. He has an excellent father figure in his life. His dad has always been there. He kind of let Zachary kind of spread his wings a little bit, more so than I would have. So my thing was I had to allow the man of the house to be the man of the house with his children. And Zachary needed a male figure and not a mother always telling him the right things. Let the man speak. And that's what I had to do. And I found myself backing off and letting his dad take charge.
That's key. That's the same question to you, Mom.
For me, at the time, being a single mom, my biggest fear was my son not being in the system, the criminal justice system, raising a son who would be a viable citizen of these United States. So education was key, and I also knew that God needed to be in his life. So I knew that, of course, he had his grandparents and my dad. Family was always going to be there, but you got school and you got friends and you have all these different things. So sports was key. He had good role models. He played every sport known to man, so I knew he had good role models and his coaches. And then I found a church home for us to go to for him to be in church as well. But I will say that my heart's desire was that my son would not just go to church, but that he would be the church. So I knew that I had to allow him that freedom to get out there and make mistakes and fall and realize that that's where he would meet God, would be in his mistakes and through the trials and errors that he would go through. So once I understood that he did find faith and he understood how the universe was working and that you do reap what you sow, and I saw that he was helping people and he wasn't thinking about himself all the time, that he understood how things work. I didn't have as much fear, but my other concern was not becoming a grandmother. And not that he wasn't.
help him.
You better return her home the way you picked her up.
Exactly.
We didn't have to worry about girls calling me.
Take her home
calling
the same
the
way you
phone.
got her.
We ain't had to worry about none of that with me. I'm just now getting into my hamster. So we don't have no stories on that for me.
Hey, I did not want to be a grandma.
I'll kind of chime in a little bit on that story too. I think that was key, like early 15, 16 years of age. She's like, you up at your grandma's house, she tired of them. My grandma gonna cuss them out, period. Mom's telling them they ain't here. I'll never forget we was at the store. And we going down the aisle, I'm on the phone. She was like, do we need to stop in this aisle? I looked around. We in the condom aisle. She said, your phone just ringing a little bit too much. I just need to know. She was like, do we need to stop? I'm like, yeah, we need to go ahead and stop. But I think the transparency though, that kind of speaks to, you know, I was able to have the freedom that my mother was talking about to allow me to experience. She understood, you know, my faith in God and my trust in God, but I also, you know, was a growing boy, and she kept that safety net around me, but she also kind of put me out there to say, you gotta make your own decisions, but you gotta protect yourself, you gotta be responsible. You know, I'm not gonna be naive to the situation. I know this is gonna happen. I'd rather you be protected than say, no, I'm not gonna do nothing for you, and then you are a grandparent in your early 30s. So I definitely appreciate that. And it kind of gave me the respect too of like being kind of choosy on who, you know, I actually entertain around me, knowing that my mom put that respect on me, like, you know, you better return her, you know, how she ain't
heard about that. Yeah. But I understand exactly that. I mean, that was big for my mother. Has always been on respect, especially for women. You know, I was holding doors open at a very early age. You know, hey, you better be the first one to the door. You better be the first one opening, you know, pulling out the chair. As always, you know, the lady goes first when you're at, you know, when you're out. And I'm pretty sure there's probably female friends of mine that I've dated be like, boy, you know how to be a gentleman, you just weren't. But that's neither here nor there.
You remember your first date?
It was you, 16. My mom took me on my first day on my 16th birthday. She threw a surprise birthday party for me. And she was my first day. She took me out. I had to, you know, really put on real clothes, like a collared shirt and slacks. I couldn't wear no jeans. Had to get my hair cut. You know, I had to hold the door open. You know, she really put me on game. Now, again, you know, I'm in high school. I know my place on the totem pole, the social totem pole in high school. I wasn't dating then, but, you know, it really gave me a solid foundation for when I did get out there and I got to college. I really, you know, started having, you know, developing friendships with females, you know, being able to know how to talk to a female and being protective. And it's not necessarily protection from a standpoint like, oh, I'm gonna beat everybody up that comes to you, but just being there for her, whether she needs somebody to talk or she needs some help. So that was definitely one of the things I learned from my mother, was just, you know, being cool with females. You know, just, you know, females are probably your best supporters, you know, and I can honestly say, you know, from my time in college and, you know, throughout life, that most of my best friends, the friends that have been, you know, the ones that I can depend on, have been female. Mm-hmm. You know, that's not here or there, you know, that's just the truth. You know, guys, they're always trying to figure out, you know, some way to make it about themselves. But females, you know, they really, that nurturing spirit, really, you know, Richard, you good, you straight, you need to ride home, you know, and that started for me in high school, you know, with the friends that I made on a high school level, you know, that were female. You know, they always made sure that, you know, they looked out for us. You know, and Shawn and I have a lot of the same friends, meaning that we went to the same school. So, you know, that was great. So I think that kind of moves on to our next question. I know I can kind of give a caveat into this one. And the question is, at what age did you recognize your son's strengths and weaknesses? And I would have to say my mom had to recognize that at an early age, being the fact that I was reading and writing at the age of 3. And then from reading and writing, my mom just kind of pushed me out there into public speaking. And, you know, it's kind of crazy. I'm here now, doing a podcast, and I probably wouldn't be had I not, you know, had she not, you know, pushed me out there. So like she said, being active in church, I did, you know, the Easter speeches at churches, you know, when they needed somebody to do a speech, my mom, oh, my son did it. You know, and I'm looking at mom, yeah, I'm voluntold. And, you know, the churches, you know, they giving out the little speeches, 2 or 3 lines, and my mom's, oh, no.
Give him more.
Yeah, give him more. He get a whole page, you know, so, but, you know, I didn't understand it at the time. I didn't like speaking in front of people at the time. You know, we have insecurities, we're nervous. But what it did was when I got to college and I had to do presentations and I had to speak in front of people, I wasn't nervous. I knew how to handle myself. And a lot of my friends would be in awe, like, bro, how can you over here with us clowning around, and in a minute they say, go, hey, I'm Richard Williams. And, you know, they didn't understand how I could do that, but you have to understand that when you live in a house with a mother, you have to be an actor. You better be ready to go when she says ready to go. She said, come down here and dance, you better be ready to dance. Get your Michael Jackson on. If she say, come down here and recite, a line from a movie, you better be ready. You better have
Did you tell them about that time you weren't ready for church?
Oh man, I got left.
You weren't ready for church. No, you didn't.
What happened? I know you won't tell me.
He had to go to church in his pajamas.
Oh, gee. The rule was, okay, so we're just gonna put it out there. The rule was, if you go out on Saturday night, you better be up and ready to go to church on Sunday.
Same.
That was the rule. So, me, went out, been a tad bit too sociable, a little too much to drink, overslept. Alarm clock goes off, she's walking down the stairs ready to go. Bag in hand, we ready to go to church. Mama, I ain't dressed. Did you go out last night? Yes, I did. Well, then you can go out this morning. So brush your teeth and let's go. But the Bible said, come as you are, so that was good.
That is hilarious.
We good.
We don't play.
No.
No?
Christ is Christ.
You go.
Yes.
You gonna be there, bro. So,
Yes.
so we'll transition that over to you, Mom. So recognize the strengths and weaknesses.
So the strengths I recognized early. Shawn was walking early, he was talking early. I don't even think he probably was 2. And my girlfriend came over, she had a new car, and you know how on the steering wheel it has little horns, you know, to let you know that's where the horn is. And he turns to her and he goes, Auntie Lori, why do you have trumpets on your steering wheel? Trumpets. Trumpets. Like trumpets? Did you come from heaven? Like trumpets. So he was very articulate, he was very smart, and just some of the things that would come out of this boy's mouth. And I'll
Go ahead.
okay, so at church, so I think he was 16, and back then the kids were getting tattoos, they were getting piercings, and all this stuff was going on. I'm like, oh my goodness. Well, he wanted to get his ear pierced, and I'm thinking, I really didn't want him to, but I'm thinking, you know what, it'll close up, I'm not gonna make him do it because it could be worse. So I said, fine, I'll fold on that. So he comes there, and one of the, oh God, should I?
Go ahead.
Okay. So one of the, I'll just say, he was a minister there, but he was quite heavy, I will say, probably in excess of 500 pounds maybe. And Krishan's coming up the stairs, and the guy says to Krishan, what's this? What you got in your ear? You know, you ain't supposed to be having no earrings in your ear. Shawn said, well, the last time I checked, the word said the flesh and blood can't inherit the kingdom of God. So these earrings ain't even gonna be in my ears when I get to heaven. He said, but the last time I checked, the word said gluttony is a sin. So what you gonna do about that? I was like, boy, let's go.
It's time for you to go.
He
I
said
got kicked out that church.
Wow. I said, let's go. So, and then we're in a store buying some shoes. And anytime, again, at this time I'm still a single mom, but you know, that subsequently changed at a later time. But Shawn was very protective of me and his sister. And we're in the store buying shoes, and people are always trying to holler at me or whatever. And some guy, you know, oh my God, you just look so beautiful today. Shawn stretches his arms like, hey bro, we good over here.
I did the same.
We good over here.
I did the same thing. We were at the Peachtree Factory, the one on East Traffic Way. So my mom is in front of me getting her food, right? I'm in the back. So I see the dude from across, like he's like, oh yeah, I'm about to walk up on that. So I see him the whole time I'm watching. I'm like, he better not make his way over here. He better not. And he walked up on my mom talking, I walked right out, hey bro, she married. And my mom like, why would you do it? Like, you married. He don't even be close to talking to you anyway. So I understand like being protective of my mother, because a lot of times, you know, like being the firstborn, my mother being a teacher, she worked a lot of late nights, and me being with her, it was me and mom until I had my sister, or then when she had my sister, it was me, my mom, and my sister. So I'm the protector. I'm the one that has to make sure that we all get home safely.
He wouldn't even let me in just say hi.
She
They were trying to
good.
get on
She
me.
good.
We went over here.
She good. She married. She don't need to talk to you.
Right.
My dad is 6'8", 240 pounds at the crib. You ain't nothing you can do for us over here, bro. So I'm gonna save you the headache. Shut it down for you.
Yeah.
I mean, made a big scene in
Yeah.
Peachtree, and it didn't need to be. Just,
And then, come on, mama.
She ain't had a problem since.
At all. Hey, we was at Just for Feet too. I cut off my hooping and everything. I said, bro, he was a little too close in the checkout. And I don't see him going in his pocket to pay for these shoes either. So,
Right.
hey, we're gonna have to figure this out, bro. It's off limits. Keep it moving. Keep it moving.
Now the weakness was when he was at Central Methodist. Because he's been strong like the whole time. I think he was a good kid. He didn't really give me no trouble. Never. I probably could count the whoopings on one finger. He just was a good kid. But
I can't say that for me.
yeah. But the weakness it was when he went to college to play football, and this is because the town. You know, there was a lot of discrimination there, and this is where his faith was being tested. And he was, like I said, he was a young man of faith. Faith had took him very, very far in his life. But Shawn also was getting by on the gifts that God had given him. He had a lot of natural talent that had blessed him. And he was a winner. He was used to winning. He had never really failed at anything. And so he was going through this season where they would always put the hometown guy in first. But he was a starting quarterback. But at the home games, they put the other guy in first. And then he'd throw a couple of reps, and then they put Shawn in. And he just got fed up with it. And it was just breaking him down. And I kept telling him, I said, Shawn, it's all about your faith. You got to trust God. This is just, your season. And then, getting pulled over on the way home, like little by little. He was about 18. That's when, and then I start seeing his fears, right? And just being a black man in America. That's when I saw the weakness and the insecurities, and just wow, like realizing I'm not a kid anymore, and this shit is real out here. And that was really when I started being concerned too for myself.
I would agree, because I think for the first time in my life, I was like, man, I can't, call my mom, call my dad, or make a call on these things. I have to embrace these myself, and I think I was doubting myself. I think that's the first time I actually started to doubt myself. Am I good enough? What is the reason I'm doing everything the coaches want me to do? And I'm still coming up short. But I know I should be playing. Everybody knows I should be playing. But it just wasn't working out for me. So I think, those 2 years probably were the darkest for me. Wasn't calling his home as much, getting into trouble, fighting in college, doing stuff I had no business doing. And I think, I had to go through that piece to,
And you lost your grandparents.
Yeah, I lost my grandparents that summer before, so I would 100% agree with that, Mahomes.
I think my weakness, attitude.
attitude.
I have a very bad attitude.
Have or had?
I'm still working. I'm working.
I think it's part of listening too. And that's part of what we go back and forth with. My heart is always to help. But when you're not listening to what I'm saying, you are just taking what I'm saying, taking it like I'm trying to run your life. And it's not about that. Like I've told him many times, I know what has been put into you. I know what has been poured into you. So I expect nothing but greatness. And he has to believe that. Even when the road gets rough, that you pray to God and you do what God puts on your heart to do the right thing. And I know he will, but Zachary has that thing. He thinks he's supposed to be perfect, and then he doesn't want me. He thinks I'm treating him like a little kid. But it's not that. When you're at your lowest moment, that's when your mothers are there to pick you up and lift you and inspire you. Not really physically picking you up, but inspiring you, telling you your greatness and your worth. And you have to trust that and believe that in yourself. And not take it as a negative, like we're putting you down. No, you shouldn't have done that, but this is where you should be. And you need to learn to take constructive criticism. And that's not only from your mom or your aunties, it's for life. Because when you on your job, they don't care how you feel when they say something to you. So when you reach back in the way your parents have told you these things, then you take that and say, okay, with a grain of salt, and move forward, because people are looking at you whenever they say something. And being a black man, your facial expression, they take it as a negative, and it's not a negative. You could be in your thinking moment, but they look at resistance, going against the grain, and that's what I have to work on him. His facial expressions when he's talking to people, someone says something that he doesn't agree with.
Yeah, I wear it on my face. You'll see it on my face, but I mean, it's been a journey, like I talked to you the other day. You have to embrace your weaknesses, and, hearing the constructive criticism is one, and hearing the constructive criticism from a place of understanding and trying to get better versus why are they always picking on me, or why are they always, and that just goes to your level of maturity. As you get older, you see it, okay, like they want to help me, they see, where I could be or the mistakes that I made. So, they're trying to deter me from that. When younger, it's like, when I left home, I was like, hey, I ain't got to listen to nobody, I'm partying, my mom would tell you, my son, he just does what he wants, and he'll figure it out later. But it wasn't until I got to those dark moments, like Ms. Lang said, your faith. I remember my mother telling me what my name meant. Richard Zachary Williams, meaning my name means God has not forgotten. And patience has been one of the biggest lessons, probably one of my biggest weaknesses that I've had to work on, because I'm a microwave person. I want it now. If I want something, I want it now. I don't want to wait. I don't want you to have to, I get it. I want it now. If I'm hungry, I want to eat now. If I'm thirsty, I want to eat now. If I got some money, I want to go shopping, I want to go now. I don't want to wait. So just having to, going away from home and hearing no, and then having to, like, brother, he said no. You're going to have to find another way, around this, So that's why it was crazy, to really, to be in that sector when, you're by yourself and, you don't have that safety net and you don't have anybody to call. Like, you really have to figure it out. And figuring out came from my faith. Having to make the conscious decision. All right, Lord, you got it. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to sit down. I'm going to get out my way. I'm going to let you take the lead. And I have to trust that. So that was being probably, I know, outside of my attitude, I would definitely have to say my patience. Understanding that no is not always final, and that man doesn't always have the last word.
That's facts. That's facts. I think that transition is very well over to you guys' experience on raising us and going back to the climate that we're in now. There's a lot of mothers raising kids now. So what would you say? I'll shoot to Ms. Williams. What would be your advice for young mothers raising sons in today's era?
It's not a book about how to raise a child, and especially in these days, you have to know who you are as a mother, and you have to know where you want your child to go. And I know the biggest thing is keeping young black men out of the penitentiary. That's the biggest thing. So do a lot of, get to know your child. And they're gonna fall, they're gonna make mistakes. And it's okay, because that's where we grow. So as a mother, I made many mistakes because I just didn't know. It was the best decision I thought at the time. But rethinking things now, I don't think I will change anything. I did the best I could. I prayed to God. And I told Zachary something once he wake up with oil all over his face. I done slept all night, all over his room. And
it wasn't always oil. I got a story for that too.
I know that's true. But you have to trust God. And if you keep God not too much, you're not gonna fall too far away from what your purpose is in life. And that's what I try to do, is keep God as the center of our family life and keeping him in church, active in church and not sleep as an acolyte. You remember that?
Oh, I remember sleeping. I mean, church shouldn't be 3.5 hours though. Let's be real. We go to church at 11:30. We're not getting out till 3. I mean, like
It was not.
2:30. It was 2:30. 2 o'clock.
Maybe once or twice.
3 or 4.
Holiday special.
Chiefs play at 12. I done missed the Chiefs game.
Communion.
All that. After church, you know. So now let's transition. We talked about our adolescence and some of the things that, you know, as mothers that you guys had to, you know, prepare for and protect us from. So I know that watching us get older, you know, you're kind of wondering, you know, my son's gonna get married when I'm gonna have some grandchildren. You know, you had your first scare in high school, but it's okay. We've been straight ever since. So it's okay. You know, I survived. You know, boy, it was the week of the Ray Peck game too.
Oh, no, bro.
My senior year, bro. There was a lot going on. So you know, if I say too much in practice that week, I had to say, Zach, focus, man. No, I ain't focused. I'm scared. I'm scared. Hey, so how do you feel your relationship with your son has shaped his choice in relationships? Well, I can tell you, my mom ain't really met too many people. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. You know, I'm protective of my family. I just don't bring everybody around. You know, we've been transparent. There's business. There's pleasure. Pleasure doesn't get to meet the family. You know, so for those of y'all that fell in that box, I apologize, but you know, it just is what it is. Hate to say it like that, but you know, my mom was probably looking at me crazy right now, but it's the truth. You know, I just respected my mother and my family so much, and I'm not gonna bring just anybody home, you know, to meet my mom, because as soon as that door closed and that young lady is gone, there's gonna be a plethora of questions that I'm going to have to answer. So to just negate all that, keep business business, keep pleasure pleasure. But you can answer that one.
I have nothing to say.
You said it all. So we'll shoot to you, moms.
Yeah, I pretty much, when Zach said business, business, pleasure, pleasure. Now what was done in Atlanta stayed in Atlanta, okay? Never. But as far as
nothing
him,
about what happened in Atlanta.
yeah. But Krishan, I knew that he was gonna be like an officer and a gentleman, because as young as, I wanna say it was 6th grade, his first Valentine, Kalika, was that her name? Carlika. He wanted to take a single rose to her. He was just such a little hopeless romantic.
Oh, he's a hopeless romantic.
Yeah, he is.
Low key.
Yeah, low key, for real though.
High key
But,
now. It's high key now.
So I knew that he was, but he had good male role models. He saw how the men in his family treated women, and he had a great relationship with his mom. And but he understood that relationships are serious. So like, if you're committed, you're committed. So don't be messing with people's heads, playing with people, or anything like that. I didn't meet a whole bunch of females. I just didn't. But when he called me, he talked to me about when he met the lady he's married to now, my daughter-in-law, Brittany Joanne. Oh my God. I knew. I said, this is it. I mean, Mom, I need to talk to you. What you doing? You busy? What you doing? I'm going to send you these pictures. So he sent me these pictures. I was like, oh my God, Krishan, she's beautiful. Who is this? He said, yeah, this is chick I met, you know. And we went out, we've been kicking it, whatever. And I just could tell by the way he was talking. And I just knew she was the one. I'm telling you, he has never talked about anyone ever that he's dated the way he talked about this girl. Mm-hmm. And we have this thing, if they make it to Thanksgiving dinner, right? And seriously, like he had like a high school sweetheart, but as far as this one, the way he treats her, the way he respects her, even in arguments or whatever, the trials and tribulations that people have, like my son loves his wife. Like he loves her with every fiber of him. He loves her the way that a man should love a woman.
As Christ should love the church. There you go.
I was gonna say that. That was
See, he got something out of church.
Yeah.
Oh, what up?
Pastor Williams.
So but
We tease
That's
Krishan
what
to say
I'm
like
saying.
he's like the new version of Blackish. Like,
yeah.
you know.
But I love that all the young men, you know, my husband and I, we did used to have Bible study at our home because I told you guys earlier that we wanted our kids not just to go to church because we also saw a lot of the damage that was happening with us that was just kind of taking our kids to church and not really living it. A lot of damage. Some young people were getting married just so they don't burn, end up burning anyway. Young divorces and all this, but a lot of the young men, in fact, most of the young men in Krishan's age group, they're all married and with children, and they're honorable and respectful young men. Because on Saturdays, they were at our house at Bible study. Y'all can kick it and do whatever after Bible study. But we started with his age group, and then we followed up with our daughter Sydney and her friends. So we just made that an integral part of, and not just Bible beating, but my husband was teaching them the way to be a man, a godly man, right? A respectable man. So
I would agree with that, and I think that played a major part based on this question on choosing relationships, like seeing how, you know, my grandfather and my grandmother would interact, you know, dads play vinyl records in the living room and just genuine love and care in your older ages. And seeing that, and then seeing my stepfather, you know, there's not anything my mama want, he gonna make sure it's done. And he gonna take care of business, he gonna make sure the trash is out, mortgage paid, bills is paid, gonna go to work. And just
Get them in shape, huh?
I was just like that already, you know what I mean?
everything in the house worked.
Everything in the house worked, you know, so it just, I think seeing that made me realize, you know, when I meet somebody, if I'm not in that position or moving towards that position to even want those things for this woman, I think we just need to leave it where we at. And I just think that taught me a lot on just the relationships that my mother has. And I think that transitions to the next question because, you know, everybody is not fortunate to, you know, have both parents in the home. And in most cases now, like, you know, some struggles even with me is just not knowing where your kid is going to be with when they're with their mom, you know, other men coming in. So for me, you know, what were some of the factors, like for you as a single mom, knowing you have a son and a daughter, introducing another man to your kids, you know, what were some of the things that were very important to you?
Well, first of all, if it wasn't by the grace of God, y'all wouldn't meet nobody.
Yeah.
Because, you know, and I'm not ashamed to say this. I mean, Krishan's dad was my first, and you know, we were married for a short time, and it didn't work out. We were young, and we were just very immature, and that's just what it was. And we were egotistical. We just both were seeking our own way. And for me, becoming a mother, my children, they really came first, and it wasn't about us anymore, you know. And again, we were still very young, and he was also an aspiring entrepreneur. So there just was a lot of dynamics that were going on that just wasn't conducive to raising children. So I would say that. I was already content with it was gonna be me, my kids, and God. I had already said I ain't never getting married again. But my husband, he and I had met in our workplace, and we were just good friends. Everybody in the post office we just had a community where everybody got along. And subsequently, we began dating and hanging out and talking, and when he came and proposed. But Rashawn had already been exposed to the men on my job. Like I was saying, they would take him to get his haircut, come to his games. So he was already familiar with him, and he was a good friend. So he already knew him. And Rashawn was even kind of advocating, you know, he liked him and felt comfortable with him. So it was just kind of a natural flow of things as far as him meeting my kids. But when it came time to make the decision when he proposed, it was like, you know, I almost said no, because the fears of bringing another man into your home and into your life and around your kids, man, I really truly had to trust God. But I knew that it was divine, and I knew that it was God. It was just too many things that, like, God was basically letting me know, look, you and your kids and me, that's cool, but how are you really going to exemplify my love, your faith? You know, it's time to get out of your comfort zone. I have been single for like 3 years, and I was just in my zone, and it was just time to really test my faith and expand. And it's been a blessing to be 24 years in February.
That's wonderful.
And my kids needed that too. They needed that.
And that's
They
big
needed
that
to
you
see
recognize that, because I know, like, for me, coming from a two-parent household, both my biological parents, like, true story, some of my friends didn't find out that I lived with both of my biological parents till high school. You know, they would come like, bro, you live with both your parents? Like, that's your real daddy? That's your real mom? Like, yeah, those are my real parents, bro, you know? But it just speaks to, you know, I really appreciate, you know, my mother and father taking the time, you know, to court each other and establish a foundation and a union before they brought a life into the world. A lot of my friends weren't blessed to have that opportunity, and unfortunately, some of them are regurgitating the same cycle. And it's not necessarily fair to the children, you know, when we look at it, because now some people use their bitterness and use the child as a pawn.
Yes.
And then the child is the one missing out. And so I was just fortunate enough to have not just a mother, but a father who was willing and able to be in his children's life. Like, I joke with my mom now, and a lot of y'all will hear me joke. My mom only cooked 3 times a year when I was growing up.
That was not
Christmas, Thanksgiving, and New Year's. But I say that is because my mother worked from about, she left the house at 6 in the morning and she didn't get home till after 6 p.m. And so a lot of us, you know, we grow up in this society where we feel like everything's traditional, we have roles. And so some people feel like it's the woman's job to cook. My dad was the domestic person in the house because my mom worked the long hours. So, you know, seeing that, like, I don't have a problem with washing dishes. I don't have a problem with folding clothes. I don't have a problem with cooking because I understand it's a team thing. It's not gender specific. Like, if we on a team, like Krishan and I played on a team together, Krishan, like, I just tell, hey man, do your job.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. In a marriage, what I learned is you have to do your job. And I'm not saying every day for them has been, you know, peaches and cream. I'm pretty sure they had some turbulence, but, you know, they did a great job of keeping us from that. We didn't see my parents argue. We always seen effective communication. We always seen love. We always seen teamwork. So essentially, those are the things that I aspire to have. And the reason I aspire to that is because I had a representation for over 36 years of what that should be. And so that was just a blessing within itself. When you get to college and you start talking to people and you find out their backgrounds, and a lot of us are dealing with issues that relate to our parents that we never took the time to heal from. So, you know, to have parents willing and able, you know, to set a strong foundation for you, like, that was big for me. I didn't understand it. Like she said, I didn't understand it. Y'all married, that's what y'all supposed to do.
Right.
But as I've gotten older, I see the importance of that.
Yeah, I think that's key too, man. And I think looking back and, you know, being older now with my family and just understanding, you know, my mom's perspective as a single parent. You know, my dad, he was an entrepreneur after, you know, the divorce, and he traveled and maneuvered around and built his wealth to be in a position to help us more now, which I also respect now. But I think that decision of what man came into the home was extremely important, and I didn't see, you know, a lot of males. And I think now I look at so much on social media, just experience that we got. You got in and out boyfriends, multiple baby dads, just different dynamics, you know, and the kids suffer from that. Like, I can only imagine, like, I know around 5th grade, I was cutting up, smelling myself, getting in trouble, and right around the time, you know, Bruce was coming in, and I needed that coming downstairs, you know, hey, your mama asked you to wash the dishes, take the trash out, you know, why don't you do it? And she would say, this is a different kind of aspect when you got somebody, you know, that's hanging.
Somebody that can beat you up.
They can beat you up. You know, it makes a difference. So I definitely respect you, and I want to say thank you for that, because you could have done a lot of different things being a young mother with 2 kids, and you chose to make that decision to put your kids first. So I do want to say thank you for that, and I appreciate you for that. This definitely made an impact on me and how I raised my family. So I want to say thank you.
I even called for Shawn when he was in college. It was some movie on, and you know, I came from a 2-parent home. My parents were 42 years, right? And I'm not gonna say regret, but it's like, wow, your life takes these different turns, and you don't know how it impacted their lives or anything like that, and they turn out great, but you're like, what did their childhood, what did it feel like to them? You know, how did it impact their lives? They're not showing any signs or symptoms, but you know, are they hiding anything? So I called him one day, he's in school, he's like, hey mom, what's up? And I'm like, I'm sorry. He's like, what is wrong with you? I said, I'm just sorry, like you didn't ask for this. And like, mama, what are you talking about? I said, well, you know, just you being a single mom. And he's like, mom, we good. And he was fine. But you know, it's just you think of that, those are the things you think about. But as he's gotten older and the choices that he's made and marrying for love and not out of necessity because he had a kid. And I just wanted to segue back to that because I did marry his dad because I had a baby, right? And I thought that was the right thing to do, and it just wasn't necessarily the right thing to do, you know? What I would say to young mothers is, you know, just be true to yourself. And, you know, we do try to do the right things sometimes and it's the wrong reasons. And, you know, when you're having a son, you cannot teach a son to be a man because you're not a man. And you need to make sure that he does have positive male role models around him. And if you're dating around and messing around and doing all that stuff, do you, boo-boo, but leave all that away from your children. They don't need to see that because you're teaching your son that that's not a good example, and your daughters are seeing that too. So they don't need to be around any of that. You need to protect your children. That's what I would say as a single mom.
And I think the last question that we have here to wrap it up, just wanted to ask you mothers, what do you value most about your relationship between you and your son? We can start with you.
Ooh, let me go down the list. I value, I remember, I think you were in college and you wrote me this letter thanking me for the storms you have been through. And you know, they're your personal storms, so it's not for me to say, but he thanked me for being rough on him sometimes. You know, telling him, no, I don't care what everybody else is doing. I'm gonna always say the right thing to do. I don't care if 1 million people and I can stand alone, and he knows this. But if I feel like he had this, remember that fight?
Mm-hmm.
They went to, were you with them?
Oh,
They went to,
plead the fifth.
you plead the fifth. They went to,
I won. That's all y'all need to know.
but that wasn't the point. The point about it is he left school and a friend drove him. You remember Denzel? Yeah. Another fifth. And drove them to a car so that they could fight. Well, my thing, gangbanging had just taken place. And people weren't doing fist fighting all the time. They were bringing weapons, you know. And I remember this mother, I told Zach to give me everybody's name that was there. I called every parent, and everybody felt my pain, what I was saying. So this one parent I called and she said, my son is not your son's keeper. I said, I'm glad you said that. Because we could be planning funerals right now. That's what my point is. That they do not jump in cars to go to do a fight. You thinking fist fight. They're suburban kids, but I don't know where these other kids coming from, and most of the trouble at that time was in the city. Not to say that it's not out here, because it is. And my thing is that we have to listen to each other as parents. And I had Zachary to call I called everybody, I wanted their names and their numbers, and that my son thanked me for that. And that meant more to me than anything. Like I said, I can stand alone with 1 million, up against 1 million, if I think I'm right. And to have my son not to be behind bars or anything right now and doing some positive things in his life. Is he perfect? No. Does he have roads to cross? He still has roads to cross, but I am proud of the man that he is becoming, because he's still working at it. And I am proud to be his mother. I am proud of the walk that we have walked together, the accomplishments that we have accomplished together.
You beat me across the stage in college.
I sure did. I deserved it.
So I walked down the stage, she down there too. Give me the diploma. No, that was a diploma.
But you know, the way my son was at one time, I wasn't for sure if he was going to graduate, if he wanted that. I knew he was capable. Like I said, I've always known his work, but did he know it? So I'm glad we went through these storms together. It has made us stronger as a family. It has made our relationship closer. Do we still have rows to cross? Of course. Do we still have storms? Of course. But we know that when we're up against anything, together we can conquer anything.
That's huge. Pass you, Mom.
So for me, first of all, just the birth of Shawn Patrick Bradley Kimball.
Patrick Bradley, yes, I'm learning a lot of this episode.
It sounds like you need to put Esquire on the end.
Right. His birth literally changed my life. The trajectory of my life, it literally did. Because once I had him, it's like everything changed. You know, my why changed. I go hard now because of my son. He changed my life. And then ultimately, hearing from God, you know, when you have your children, I also have 2 daughters, but the dynamic is different when you have a son. And also, I didn't even want no daughters. But that's a whole other story.
Well, Mom,
And it had to do with the dynamic of the relationship with my mom, which was good, but anyway. Having Shawn and hear God say when to let him go. Because he did need to become a man and know how to be a provider and take care of his family. We were so close. We talked every day. If we wasn't talking, we was texting. When pagers was out, we was paging. I mean, we talked about it. He was my best friend. So that letting go part is like cutting the umbilical cord from a grown man, right? And he felt that. But it was like God telling me, okay, now, you gotta let him go. He's gotta find his way. And he was about 18. And because he had already left home. And I just had to do it. And he felt it. And I could tell, because if he would call, I was kind of short with him, you know, or if he would ask for help, well, Shawn, you gotta figure that out, you know. What do you mean? you know, you gotta figure it out. And so, like decisions, very big decisions that he had to make. And so gradually, and sometimes I could feel the resentment, because he'd be like, yeah, what if it was Sydney? Or yeah, if it was Bryce, you know. And I didn't even at that time explain to him why. I never said anything. But when he got older, and I want to say it would be within the past couple of years, one day he said to me, you know what, Mama, I remember when the dynamic of our relationship changed, and I just was feeling like you just kind of cut me off, you know. He said, but I thank you. He said, I thank you for doing that, because of you doing that made me the man that I am today. And that's when I knew that I did what I was supposed to do. Mm-hmm. So that's when I knew you appreciated me as your mom, and that whether I was your worst enemy at that time, you know, that one day you would come to know why I had to.
I didn't understand it. I really didn't, because it was like, I'm in Atlanta at 19, I got a car, got bills, responsibilities, and I call, hey Mom, you know, I might be like $100 short on rent. She's like, hey, you chose to go down there. I'm like, what? You told me to, man. So I ain't got no gas in the car. Me and Kevin walking to Wendy's to get chicken nuggets, you know, counting quarters and cushions to make it work. But it was like, I'm like, dang, they don't love me at home, you know, for a minute. I was jokingly, but I had to feel that. She didn't come and visit, you know, it was like, you're gonna have to figure this move out, you know. So like my car insurance, all my bills. When I moved back home, I was like, man, I ain't staying at home. You know, I've been away for so long, I just think it equipped me to like, now when you get a bill, it's not like, I'm away. Like it bothers me if my stuff is like past 30 days, like, nah, well, we go ahead and pay that now. That can wait. Sacrifice. I learned sacrifice. and putting your priorities in order first. And I think that was huge, learning that from you being cut off. So no, I do appreciate that, because it allows. I tell my sons now, I'm like, hey bro, you got choose these phones. You get 2 Batman, some light ups, whatever you want. But you get these phones, you done. You can't come back to other shoes. But just learning choices and decisions on your own and being okay with them, I think was huge for me and our relationship, from always being there to having to figure stuff out on my own. So I appreciate that.
It was hard.
Well, mothers, we appreciate you coming through and dropping the jewels and just, expanding on, some of the things that you had to go through as mothers before, we were here, while we were kids and, as we've grown up. And I just want to say thank you to my mother for being, the woman that she is. I know raising me was not easy. I know it wasn't. I know it was a lot of things that had to be taken into consideration, but I appreciate you being patient with me and not giving up on me, when I felt like
It wasn't an option.
Sometimes I wanted to give up on myself, or when, I had been labeled by others, a delinquent, or, this kid's just not going to graduate because of certain things. But like I told you guys at the beginning of this episode, that you have to learn that your mother is not your opponent. She is your biggest adversary. She is going to be your biggest cheerleader, but with that, she's going to be your biggest critic. So, I encourage any of you, you can go back and read Langston Hughes' poem, Mother to Son. Life for me ain't been no crystal stair. Life for me ain't been no crystal stair. And, you have to, as men, you have to sit down and maybe take some time to read that to understand, your mother's perspective on some of the things that she's had to go through to make sure to get to where you are. So if you have a mother in your life, man, hug her up, love on her, and be there for her, because that's not just your mother, that's your best friend. So again, we want to thank everybody for the support. Before we get out of here, I got a few people I want to shout out. I definitely want to shout out Sade Shears for letting us use her facility, Vivid Events. That is definitely a plus, a black-owned business, a young woman that's doing a lot of great things in Kansas City. So if you have a chance, please check her out. Bell, come on up here. Our photographer, he don't want to be on camera, but come on up here, man. This is promo, man. This is promo for you. We're doing a lot of good work throughout the city. So come on, man. A good friend of mine, man, we went to high school together. We call him Doe. That's Anthony Simmons. He's our photographer guy. He's the guy in charge of all the photography. Listen, if you are a newly entrepreneur or somebody in the business field and you need some headshots, please reach out to us. His information will be on the credits at the end of this. And Saul, you come on too, man. Come on, get on up here, man. Listen, this is the man behind the plan. This is the man behind the lens. He is excellent with the camera. We appreciate you and what you do. I'll also have his information on there. So if you guys need any work from a photography or from a film standpoint, please reach out to these young men. They're doing great work throughout the city. So most of the time it's on me to close it out, but you know what? Since we had the ladies here, we're going to let y'all in before. So you guys go ahead and wish the visitors good well.
Well, I thank you for letting us be a part of your, I want to say iPod.
That's a podcast.
I have to get used to these new terms. But anyway, I appreciate it, and I just pray God's blessing upon what you guys are doing. And don't ever take anything for granted, but always allow God to be first in your life.
Amen.
In whatever you do.
All right, sending light and love to everyone who is following this podcast. We know that God is going to grow it organically. If you're watching this tonight, young ladies, just trust God, allow Him to order your footsteps, and just share this video, this podcast, and let everyone see what it's like to be raising a son.
That's why I'm showing my shirts. The Stone.
The Stone.
We go into Living Stone, HBCU, so tap in with me. The
Stone. DST.
Yeah, but the vice president is AKA now.
It's all right. It's all good, Divine Nine.
It's Divine Nine.
Oh, you gotta tell them where they can check this podcast out and follow you, bro.
Oh, yeah, the podcast. If y'all haven't checked out episode 2, please check out episode 2. Episode 3 will be uploaded probably next Saturday. But in the meantime, follow us at EX_ZACH_LY_my point. Exactly My Point, the podcast. You can also follow us on YouTube. So once you follow us on Instagram, click that link in the bio. Subscribe. It helps us out a lot. Again, man, we appreciate you. We love you. And Exactly My Point.
All right.